Useless things are embarrassing. Kokojia cursed angrily, and then said to Jason, Jason, how you want to deal with this person is up to you. The guard immediately kowtowed to the ground with a look in his eyes. The look of panic and the fear in my heart were instantly amplified to the point where it couldn't be increased, and at the same time, I felt extremely regretful in my heart. However, Jason didn't even glance at him. Instead, he cast his gaze in another direction of the royal city. Everyone knew that that was the residence where the Dongi kingdom entertained the delegation from the kingdom of Weiss. In his eyes, cold murderous intent surged out unabashedly. Rudolph's expression suddenly changed. Jason, you have to think twice. As the most powerful country in the Northwest today, the Kingdom of Weiss is slightly better than the Kingdom of Orlando in all aspects of strength, not to mention the elixir master this time. At the conference, the person led by the Kingdom of Weiss was Master Silton, the #1 elixir master in the Northwest and a 6th-level low-level elixir master. The guard leading the team was the 7th-level intermediate emperor spirit, known as the #1 expert in the Northwest. Nowitzki. Even if all members of the Orlando Kingdom delegation were to mobilize, I'm afraid there would be no damage to the opponent at all. Jason smiled nonchalantly. Master Rudolph, don't worry, this matter is my private matter and will be handled by myself. It does not represent the Kingdom of Orlando. Rudolph's face changed slightly, and at this moment he was angry again. Angry and anxious, Jason's words represented his attitude if he was really indifferent and let Jason stand alone. Even if Jason is not dissatisfied, the excellent personal relationship between him and Jason, as well as Jason's attitude towards the Kingdom of Orlando in the future, may have changed due to this. Anyone who dares to hurt me, I will make him regret being born into this world. Jason said firmly, with an unchangeable determination in his tone. Jason, who was an orphan in his previous life, had no relatives around him at all, only those subordinates who followed him loyally. For them, Jason valued them more than anything else. However, in this life, although the reborn Jason has a family, he does not have a strong sense of belonging to the Todd family. Therefore, for the people around him, Jason treats them just like those who followed him in the previous life, never giving up and being loyal. Gung's subordinates cherish him extremely. He will never tolerate anyone harming the people around him. Your Highness, Jason sneered, his eyes falling on Roberts. Master Roberts, how many princes are coming with the delegation from the Kingdom of Weiss this time? Roberts hesitated and said, except apart from the 8th Prince of Sri Lanka who participated in the Elixir Master Conference, the only other prince who came with him was the 3rd Prince of the Kingdom of Weiss, Pollock. Pollock, hey. Jason sneered and stared into the distance with a direct gaze. After crossing the distance of this space, he landed at the residence of the Kingdom of Weiss. Jason laughed, and without even saying hello to the people around him, he swayed out of the manor and flew into the distance. Wayne, on the other hand, followed Jason without batting an eye, his eyes twinkling. Jason's reaction made him quite gratified. He treated Jason's 2 maids like sisters. After spending time with Claire these days, Wayne fell in love with Claire even more. A shy, yet devoid of any scheming girl. Therefore, after seeing the unconscious Claire, he had already decided in his heart that no matter who the other party was or what Jason's attitude was, he would seek justice for Claire. If Jason didn't go to trouble the other party because the other party was powerful, even though Wayne had decided to follow Jason, he would inevitably feel a little unhappy in his heart. However, Jason's reaction now made him feel extremely excited. Seeing Jason's disappearing back, Rudolph and Dylan glared at each other, with a hint of hesitation on their faces. Finally, Rudolph gritted his teeth and said, D-Lin, gather people quickly, let's go together. D-Lin nodded, and Joe wanted to leave, but Rudolph said again, forget it, D-Lin, come with me, you go quickly, if something happens to Jason, it will be bad. Alice, all your hands and Baiji, come up quickly. After the words fell, the figures of Rudolph and D-Lin also disappeared into the manor, leaving only Roberts and Kokori got off, looking at each other. If Jason going alone can be regarded as a private matter, then Rudolph and Dylan going together has raised the matter to the height of a country. Kokori, follow immediately. I will go back and report this to His Majesty Charlie. Roberts thought for a moment and said solemnly, remember, if possible, try not to let any accidents happen to Jason. Kokori glanced at Roberts in surprise, but he didn't say much. As his figure swayed, he also chased after him. At this moment, it was afternoon, the sun was setting in the west, and it felt like dusk was coming. Weiss, the mansion where the kingdom delegation is staying, is located on another bustling street in the royal city of Carmela. At the door, two guards with piercing eyes and strong aura showing off in every move are carefully scrutinizing the passers-by. Facts in the minds of these guards, they originally regarded the Elixir Medicine Master Conference as a rare overseas trip, and they did the same in the days before the conference. However, after the results of the conference came out and His Royal Highness, the 8th Prince Sri Lanka, who had originally vowed to win the championship, ended up in second place, the atmosphere in the entire Weiss Kingdom mansion immediately changed. Humph, the man snorted coldly. The two guards, who had appeared to be extremely tough in the eyes of all passers-by, suddenly turned pale, and with a thud, they all fell down in front of the gate with a look of horror on their faces. This person is naturally Wayne, who was restored to the 8th level low-level Emperor, spiritual master only, by Jason. Wayne, who was once the 8th level Emperor, spiritual master of several peaks, reached the pinnacle of strength and dominated the world. Now after recovering his strength, the all-powerful aura that dominated the world once again returned to him. The Emperor Spirit Master, the Emperor Spirit Master, the Emperor among the Spirit Masters, the 4th level Heavenly Spirit Master level guard looked like a countryman in front of Wayne. When the common people saw the lofty Emperor, their aura alone could crush them both in an instant. Although the two guards did not suffer any substantial physical harm, their minds suffered. He suffered severe trauma, and I am afraid that he will never take another step on the path of a spiritual master for the rest of his life. Looking at the huge closed bronze door in front of him, a sneer appeared at the corner of Jason's mouth. In the bustling street under the astonished gazes of countless people around him, Wayne's right hand gently reached up. Ka-ka-ka-ka boom, pieces of ice spread quickly with Wayne's right hand as the center, and instantly wrapped the huge bronze door inside. Then, with a loud bang, even a 5th level sect spiritual master was unable to do anything. The huge bronze door that was broken open by a punch collapsed in an instant and turned into ice shards all over the ground. Jason's eyes were cold as he stepped over the ice chips on the ground and stared at the entire matter. Next, a huge roar like a bolt from the blue rumbled over the entire matter. Palak, come out and get fucked. The rumbling voice was like thunder from far to near, which shocked the hearts of everyone present. Their teeth were sore and their eardrums were in constant pain. Who dares to act wild here? In the manner, some guards near the gate quickly rushed over and saw Jason and Wayne standing at the door, as well as the mansion gate that had turned into debris on the ground. His face was full of anger. As the most powerful country in the northwest, the Kingdom of Weiss, the guards who escorted the delegation of Elixir Masters are also palace guards. Whether in their own kingdom or in the northwest countries, they are used to running rampant, and now there are actually some. They knocked on the door and kept asking their third prince to come out and die. Suddenly, everyone's faces turned red and their hearts were full of anger. In an instant, nearly 10 guards who arrived one after another pulled out the sharp blades from their waists in an instant and looked at Jason with eager eyes. The air seemed to solidify in an instant. The nearly 10 guards roared angrily, their various spiritual powers flashing on their bodies, and they fiercely moved toward Jason and Wayne. No matter what the identity of the other party is, they have already made up their mind to arrest the two people in front of them and repair them. What would it be like to attack with nearly 10 palace guards without giving in? Countless pedestrians standing on the street watching from a distance had never dared to imagine such a scene before, but today, they witnessed it with their own eyes. Various rays of light shone out from the nearly 10 guards, and the spiritual power in the air became extremely restless. The whole world seemed to darken in an instant, and there were buzzing sounds of spiritual power in the air. Although most of the palace guards of the Kingdom of Weiss are 4th-level heavenly spiritual masters, and occasionally there are 2 5th-level sect spiritual masters, although their individual strength is powerful, it is not enough to create a big momentum, but it was far different when nearly 10 people attacked together. A gust of wind seemed to suddenly rise in the whole world, and huge waves were wrapped up in the sky, rushing towards Wayne and Jason. Under this huge wave, Wayne and Jason were like a small boat in the sea. Facing the huge wave, they would be invaded and destroyed in the next second. These are just the feelings of pedestrians on the street. Wayne, who was at the center of the storm, had no expression on his face. With a sneer on his lips, he took a step forward and was about to take action. Stop. A shocking roar. Suddenly, the sound came from far away, and the voice came closer and closer. It was still very far away before, but in an instant, the husband had arrived above the heads of Wayne and Jason. Amidst the angry shouts, a fiery red spiritual power formed. The wave of air met the attack of nearly 10 guards with overwhelming force. In the loud noise, the fiery red fire spiritual power spread across the entire sky, instantly wrapping up the nearly 10 guards. A series of muffled sounds suddenly sounded one after another in the red light. The red light came and went quickly. After a moment, it completely dissipated. A figure slowly fell in front of Jiashen and Wayne. Di Lin, who was following Jason and the others, was about to get down to business. But the nearly 10 guards who had attacked fiercely before now fell to the ground one by one, with blood at the corners of their mouths and looks of panic on their faces. Originally, they thought that the other party was just some blind guy who rushed in boldly, but the figure flying from the sky earlier let them know that there was actually a kingdom in the northwest involved in this matter. The intervention of the 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master with the ultimate power. Wow! A 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master. The opponent is actually a 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master. Which country's strong man dared to rush into the palace of the Kingdom of Weiss and fight? Oh my God, is the Northwest going to be in chaos again? The people around him suddenly became excited. As the strongest person in the country, there are only a dozen or so 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Masters in the entire Northwest. Each one of them is a long-established figure. People in the entire Northwest can count them silently with their eyes closed. Each one of them represents the face of a kingdom. Now there is actually a 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master who has rushed into Weiss, the kingdom's mansion, and injured more than a dozen guards of the Kingdom of Weiss. No matter what the reason is, this kind of naked blood adjustment is not tolerated by any country. Could it be said that which kingdom in the Northwest ignores the mainland for many years? The peace agreement is about to start a war with the Kingdom of Weiss, known as the most powerful country in the Northwest. Hey, why does that boy feel like Jason, the champion of the Elixir Master Conference? At this moment, someone in the crowd suddenly recognized Jason's identity. It is indeed Jason. I saw him at the Elixir Master Conference. How could this Jason have a conflict with His Highness Pollock, the third prince of the Kingdom of Weiss? Jason, what happened? Isn't that the genius elixir of the Kingdom of Orlando? Jason, I've heard that he was a figure comparable to Master Airly of our Northwest mythology back then. TCH, let me tell you, Jason's talent in elixirs is even greater than Master Airly's. You know, Master Airly's breakthrough in the true meaning of elixirs was just now. The 5th level, and that Jason passed the 6th level perfectly. If anyone has the loudest reputation in the entire royal city of Carmela now, it is none other than Jason, who won the championship at the Elixir Master Conference yesterday. In the royal city of Carmela, almost every household in the royal city of Carmela is talking about it. It's all about Jason, the young genius who emerged from nowhere. In this world where the strong are respected, people need geniuses and heroes more, and Jason's talent in elixirs surpassing that of the Northwest mythical master airily made everyone admire him and regard him as a hero. Idol. Isn't that 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master D. Lin from the Kingdom of Orlando? It's really him. Ah, Master Rudolph is here too, as well as the Kakalida people from our kingdom. What exactly is this? What's going on? As the crowd was talking, 2 more figures broke into the palace of the Kingdom of Weiss, followed closely by Master Rudolph and Karanli. Jia Shen glanced at D. Lin and the others, with a hint of surprise on his face, and then he felt something in his heart. I felt an inexplicable emotion. In fact, when Jason decided to come for revenge, he never thought that Dylan and Lord Rudolph would also come. The 2 of them represented the entire Kingdom of Orlando. More importantly, there is a 7th level intermediate Imperial Spiritual Master Novitsky here who is known as the best expert in the Northwest. Jason, who knows Wayne's strength, is naturally not afraid, but Dylan and the others don't know Wayne's strength. But still followed. At this moment, it would be absolutely impossible to say that Jason had no feelings in his heart. No matter what purpose the other party has in mind or what kind of selfishness they have. As long as they come here, it is a huge favor to Jason, a huge favor that cannot be forgotten. Looking at the nearly 10 West Kingdom guards who fell to the ground, vomiting blood, and with a look of horror on their faces, Jason stepped forward and said in a cold voice, "Tell me, where is Pollock?" Although Jia Shen was extremely angry, he came this time just to cause trouble for Pollock, the culprit. As for these guards, they were all innocent people, and Jason didn't want to take other people's names at will. Of course, if the other party insists on obstructing him, Jason doesn't mind letting him become a corpse on the road of his own revenge. The guards had panic expressions on their faces, and their eyes unconsciously turned to the magnificent building behind them. Master Rudolph, D. Lin, is this the way you treat guests in the Kingdom of Orlando? You innocently broke into my residence in the Kingdom of Weiss, and kept saying that you wanted to kill the 3rd prince of the Kingdom of Weiss. Could it be that you just won this session? Does the champion of the Spiritual Medicine Master Conference treat the Kingdom of Weiss as nothing? Just when Jason and the others were about to move on, a huge roar suddenly came from the depths of the manor. Immediately, a group of people walked out from the depths of the manor. The leader was none other than Master Hilton of the Kingdom of Weiss, and the one following him was Novitsky, who was known as the #1 person in the Northwest. After this group of people came to Jason and others, they first looked at the guard who had fallen to the ground, and then saw the door broken into countless pieces, with a look of extreme anger in their eyes. No matter what the 3rd prince did to make them so angry, the actions of Rudolph and others severely slapped the Kingdom of Weiss in the face. If the Kingdom of Weiss can still tolerate it, in the entire Northwest, his reputation may plummet in an instant. Such consequences are absolutely not allowed by Master Hilton, and he cannot bear them. Master Hilton, I respect you and call you Master, and please hand over the 3rd prince of your kingdom, Pollock, otherwise. Jason took a step forward with a hint of coldness in his eyes. Seeing Jason taking the lead instead of Rudolph, Hilton and others were startled for a moment, then their faces became extremely cold, and they snorted coldly, otherwise, what? Humph, Jason, although you won this Elixir Master Conference champion, but to be honest, you are not qualified to negotiate terms with me now, and let Rudolph speak out. Jason smiled lightly, in that case, don't blame me for being rude. You are unwilling to hand him over, then I will find him myself. After that, Jason ignored the people in front of him and walked towards the interior of the manor. Stop. Under Hilton's eyes, a fierce guard in the crowd suddenly stood up and stopped in front of Jason. A sinister smile appeared on his face, and he stretched out his hand to grab Jason. His fingers were khaki. The spiritual energy vibrates and the momentum surges. Presumptuous, when the guard just made a move, D. Lin, who had been paying attention to him for a long time, swayed. Amidst the loud shouts, his palms instantly turned as red as blood. The fire element was vividly displayed in her, a 7th level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master. With this move, all the fire element spiritual power in the entire world was mobilized in an instant and swarmed towards Dylan's location. The billowing heat wave spread to the surroundings, and everyone suddenly felt as if they were in a furnace at this moment. Even their breathing was burning with the heat of Wuxi. Bang! The palms of the two people met, and the guard who was confronting Dylin grunted, and stepped back in great embarrassment. The hair on his head smelled of burning. Presumptuous. Nowitzki, who had been waiting for Dylin to take action, roared in anger. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, and a ball of flame instantly appeared on his right fist, aiming at Dylin with a punch. For Hilton, Nowitzki, and others, what they have to do at this moment is not to ask Pollock exactly what he did to make Jason and the others angry. But first, they must completely overwhelm Dylin and others in terms of force. The previous behavior of Dylin and others was equivalent to a heavy slap in the face of the Kingdom of Weiss. Nowitzki and the others wanted to slap this slap back hard, or even slap a few more times, so that they could talk later. Something else. Otherwise, even if the matter is finally resolved satisfactorily, the reputation of the Kingdom of Weiss will be greatly affected. C. Nowitzki, who wanted to teach Dylan and the others a lesson, was merciless when he struck. His punch did not look very fast, but Dylan, who was locked by the breath, felt that at this moment everything in the world has disappeared, and only the fiery red fist in front of him is left in the whole world. What frightened Dylin even more was that in his perception, this punch seemed to cover his whole body. No matter how he tried to avoid it at the moment, he could not avoid this fierce blow. In the crisis, Dylin gritted his teeth and the fire spiritual power in his body was instantly mobilized to the maximum. He aimed at Nowitzki's attack and faced it fiercely. Boom! When Dylin's fist and Nowitzki's fist intersected, Dylin's face suddenly changed, and there was a hint of horror in his eyes. A searing, almost irresistible force came from Nowitzki opposite him. The powerful fire spiritual power quickly rushed into Dylin's arms, rampaging through Dylin's body and wreaking havoc. At this moment, Dylin finally knew how terrifying the strength of Nowitzki, who was known as the most powerful man in the Northwest, had reached. He, a 7th-level low-level emperor spiritual master, had been hit by just one move. After suffering a lot of secret losses, Dylin even suspected that Nowitzki was about to break through to the level of a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master. Dylin groaned and took 2 steps back. His face suddenly became extremely pale, and after a while, it returned to the rosy color. Humph, Dylin, since you dare to break into the residence of my Kingdom of Weiss, enter the guards of my Kingdom of Weiss, and even kill the 3rd prince of my Kingdom of Weiss, then do you dare to fight fair with me? War. Nowitzki jumped into the air and floated over the manor. A huge roar rumbled over the entire royal city, instantly spreading to every corner of Carmela in the Dongxing Kingdom. Dylin, do you dare to fight Nowitzki? For a time, almost all the people in the royal city faintly heard Nowitzki's roar. And some imperial spiritual masters from other kingdoms, after feeling the energy riot of spiritual elements in the palace of the Kingdom of Weiss, had already leapt over from a distance and watched every move here from a distance. Angry flames rose in Dylin's eyes. Although the spiritual power in his body had not completely subsided, Nowitzki's cry of war made him unable to retreat. Although Dylin knew that he was no match for Nowitzki, at this moment, the spiritual master's strictness made him stand up without hesitation, his body burning with blazing fire. Nowitzki, Dylin is here, come on. Dylin's voice rumbled throughout the royal city, and he was filled with fearless fighting spirit. Haha, okay. Nowitzki shouted loudly, his eyes flashed, and while talking and laughing, his whole person turned into a volcano about to erupt. Powerful power raged out, and the air around the entire manor was full of energy. The fire spiritual power was boiling violently. For a time, the temperature of the entire royal city of Carmela seemed to have increased several degrees in an instant, and the air within tens of meters of Nowitzki's side was even more distorted and burning. Feeling Nowitzki's incomparably powerful momentum, the faces of the 7th-level low-level emperor spiritualists from other kingdoms in the distance all changed. Many years ago, Nowitzki was the 7th-level intermediate emperor spiritualist. Nowitzki's strength aspires to be the top player in the Northwest. Now, after so many years, Nowitzki's strength is actually not as good as before. It is even more terrifying than it was back then. Lin, take a slap from me. Amidst the roar, Nowitzki raised his right hand high and turned his hand down towards Lin. The sun and the moon lost their light, the sky and the earth changed color, and the entire sky turned fiery red, like a burning cloud, falling over Lin's head. Ah! Lin let out a loud shout, and the spiritual power in his body boiled instantly. A large amount of fire element power was instilled into Lin's body, and Lin's whole body turned into fiery red in an instant. Color, even the hair is exuding bursts of terrifying heat. Lin raised his head and stared at the giant palm that was pressing down like a huge mountain, and pushed it up with both hands like a tower. Boom! In the huge explosion, Lin felt an irresistible force suddenly pressing down from the top of his head, and his whole body quickly fell from midair to the ground. No! Lin's eyes were cracked, and he roared again. The blood all over his body burned under the high temperature, and countless cracked bloodshot eyes instantly appeared on his skin, just to be able to block Nowitzki's blow. Block it. Press me down. Nowitzki shouted loudly for the second time, glaring with anger. Lin, who had originally stopped his fall, could no longer hold on, and his whole body was pressed hard to the ground. Boom! Lin was pressed heavily into the ground, and a huge pit suddenly appeared on the ground. The soil turned into black crystal-like crystals under the high temperature, and Lin was he stood in the huge pit in a very embarrassed state, with blood at the corner of his mouth. No impossible whether it was Kakori present or the 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual masters in the distance, they all let out an incredible exclamation, with extremely horrified expressions on their faces. Look! Although before Lin and Nowitzki fought, they all thought that Nowitzki would win, but they never thought that Lin, who was also a 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual master with them, would be defeated by Nowitzki. Beat to defeat. After all, Nowitzki is only one level higher than Lin. More importantly, both of them have fire attributes. When they think about it, there is no doubt that Nowitzki will win, but at least there will be a fight. Fighting. However, the result was far beyond their expectations. Not only the imperial spiritual masters, but all the people present also had their eyes widened and their mouths opened wide. Although Nowitzki is known as the #1 expert in the Northwest, Lin is also the #1 expert in the Kingdom of Orlando, but this very quickly, Nowitzki's words immediately made them feel despair, and at the same time, their doubts were cleared. Whoever dares to offend our Kingdom of Weiss will suffer this fate. No matter who he is, he will be punished by me, the patron saint of the Kingdom of Weiss and the 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master Nowitzki. Mid-air Nowitzki looked coldly at the 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual masters from other kingdoms in the distance, with a disdainful sneer on his lips and a hint of warning in his eyes. It looked extremely majestic. Last year, Nowitzki, who had been entrenched in the realm of the 7th-level intermediate imperial spiritual master, finally successfully broke through to the realm of the 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master. If in the past, once someone from other kingdoms broke through to the intermediate level of Emperor Spiritual Master, or several 7th-level low-level Emperor Spiritual Masters from several kingdoms united, they could still pose a slight threat to him who was still an intermediate-level Emperor Spiritual Master at that time. Then after he was promoted to Senior Imperial Spiritual Master, Nowitzki was truly invincible in the Northwest. The Kingdom of Weiss has never spread this news, but today, Nowitzki finally found an opportunity to show his strength that no one can stop. In the palace of the Kingdom of Weiss, Palace stood on a building, looking at the figure of Nowitzki standing proudly in the sky in the distance with great excitement. As early as the first roar, when Jason broke in, Pollock heard Jason's roar. He understood what Jason came to mean, although he kept telling himself that he was just teaching a maid a lesson. When Jason really came to the door, he still couldn't help but feel a sense of fear in his heart. However, at this moment, there was no trace of fear in his heart. Yes, with Mr. Nowitzki as a patron saint in the kingdom, what else does he have to fear? In the entire Northwest, no one can be Nowitzki's opponent. Silence, deathly silence. At this moment, Nowitzki was like a god of fire, standing proudly in the sky, looking down at Rudolph, Jason and others below, with deep contempt in his eyes. The 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual masters from other kingdoms are still in the shock of Nowitzki's advancement to high-level imperial spiritual masters. Master Rudolph, you led many guards from the kingdom of Orlando to rush into my palace in the kingdom of Weiss, and you also intended to kill the 3rd prince of the kingdom of Weiss. What else do you have to say? Nowitzki asked Rudolph in the air, his eyes, there was an all-consuming anger in it. Silence, Nowitzki's strong strength, made Rudolph helplessly look at Jason not far away at this moment, and could only remain silent. His strength is inferior to that of others, and all morality is empty. Rudolph knows that even if he tells what Pollock did to Claire today, he will not be able to change anything. Just when Rudolph and others were filled with helplessness and sorrow. Suddenly, that Nowitzki, right? You've been clamoring in the sky for a long time and it's time to shout enough. Then, get off here. A plain voice that didn't even make a single ripple of shock. Suddenly, Carmela remembered in the entire royal city that unlike the roars of Nowitzki and Dylan, this voice was extremely subtle, as if it was a person's normal speech, but it was clearly transmitted to the ears of everyone in the entire royal city. In everyone's confused and surprised eyes, a figure slowly rose into the sky and floated quietly in front of Nowitzki. It was Wayne who had been following Jason. Lin, although you lost miserably in the previous battle, it should have given you a chance to advance to the intermediate level of the Imperial Spiritual Master. In midair, Wayne looked at the deep pit below in great embarrassment, but Lin, who looked thoughtful, said indifferently, well, now you show me how I fight. Wayne said coldly and then calmly turned his eyes to Nowitzki in front of him. That look is like looking at an insignificant mole, huh? Who is that person? Isn't that the guard beside Jason? The guard beside Jason? He can float in the air, and he is also a 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master. This Jason, what a pity, what a pity. Yes, Mr. Nowitzki has made it so clear. This guy actually dares to show his face. I don't know how to write the word death. Yes, no matter how strong the guard is, he is probably only a 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Master. Nowitzki is actually a senior Imperial Spiritual Master. Oh my God, in the entire Northwest, there is probably no country that can shake the status of the most powerful country in the Kingdom of Weiss. Wayne's appearance immediately made the crowd roar again. There was a lot of discussion among the formation. Although many people were surprised that the guard following Jason was actually a 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master, more importantly, everyone's thoughts were focused on Novi. On Ski's body. The 7th-level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master is an invincible existence in the Northwest. Such news is even more shocking than Jason's unprecedented and astonishing talent shown at the Elixir Master Conference. After all, Jason only showed talent. It takes time to grow, but Nowitzki immediately showed amazing strength. As for the current Jason's guard, who is called Wayne, if it were on other occasions, it would probably shock many people, but at this moment, in front of the news that Nowitzki has been promoted to the Senior Imperial Spiritual Master, it seems that so insignificant. Many people even believed that Wayne would be defeated by Nowitzki in one move, just like Naughty Lin, or even worse. Haha. Looking at Wayne, who was floating in front of him with a relaxed expression and no trace of nervousness, Nowitzki let out an arrogant sneer, with a hint of uncaring disdain in his eyes. You actually said to let me get out, very good, very good. Nowitzki's eyes narrowed slightly, the fire spiritual power in his body boiled again, and the temperature of the air around him increased directly. Wayne's expression of not taking him seriously irritated him completely. He sneered and said, "I want to see how you get me out of here." Novus shouted loudly. A fierce light burst out from G's eyes, and streams of fire spiritual power entered his body crazily. As the air trembled, a huge fiery red hand faintly emerged in the air, aiming at Wayne fiercely. "Grab it hard, and wherever it goes, the air will explode and burn." Void Elemental Hand Seal. As expected, he is worthy of being a senior Imperial spiritual master. His control over the elements has reached such a terrifying level. Nowitzki actually does such a heavy trick, then Wayne will be in trouble. If Nowitzki had used this trick when fighting Di Lin before, then Di Lin would have been seriously injured by now and only had half his life left. Seeing the huge fire element handprints that appear or disappear, all the 7th level low-level Imperial spiritual masters in the entire royal city suddenly widened their eyes and let out a sound of exclamation from their mouths. The biggest difference between a 7th level Imperial spiritual master and a 6th level spiritual master is that he can communicate with the power of spiritual elements between heaven and earth. However, different levels of Imperial spiritual masters have great differences in their ability to control the power of spiritual elements in the air. A low-level Imperial spiritualist who has just been promoted to the 7th level of the Imperial spiritual master can only simply continuously absorb the power of elements in the air. The Void Hand Seal, like Nowitzki's current display, has vaguely reached the stage of materializing the power of the fire element in the air. This kind of ability to control the spiritual element can only be revealed by some powerful high-level Imperial spiritual masters. Just when everyone thought that Wayne was going to be unlucky, Wayne, as the person involved, faced the fiery red ethereal palm prints that came quickly, but there was no expression on his face. "You are so poor at controlling Yuanling element, how dare you show it off?" Wayne sneered. "That's all, I'll show you what the real essence of Yuanling element is," sneered. Wayne's right hand was slightly raised. Suddenly, the whole world changed. The air temperature in the royal city, which was originally a bit warmer due to Nowitzki's outbreak, suddenly felt a bit chilly. The weather that was originally as hot as a sweltering summer suddenly seemed to have fallen into the coldest month of winter again. When everyone breathed, they exhaled white mist condensed by the cold. "What's going on?" Everyone looked up in shock. An extremely huge palm with a radius of more than 10 feet, made of ice, appeared in Wayne's hand. It quickly condensed in front of him, and then with a momentum that crushed everything, it slammed into the void fire element handprint composed of Nowitzki. Boom! The ice met the fire, and a huge explosion sounded. In everyone's surprised, stunned, and dull eyes, the fire element handprint exerted by Nowitzki with all his strength was like an egg hitting a stone, and again it was like a wave hitting a dam, instantly disintegrating and dispersing, turning into the power of fire elements again, slowly dissipating into the air. However, the giant ice palm, condensed by Wayne, did not shrink in size at all, and it was aimed at Nowitzki and crushed him hard. "Impossible!" Nowitzki's eyes widened, showing his unbelievable application, and a desperate scream broke out in his mouth. In Nowitzki's horrified eyes, Wayne's huge ice hand instantly hit him suspended in the sky. A huge force that made him unable to resist came instantly. Nowitzki roared, the fire spiritual power in his body burst out, trying to push open the giant ice palm, but it was like a cricket shaking a tree branch, unable to move it at all. No matter how powerful he burst out, the giant ice palm never wavered. What frightened Nowitzki even more was that the space around him seemed to be frozen by the cold, and he didn't even try to dodge. Arrive! Boom! Amidst the huge roar, Nowitzki, who had been floating in midair with domineering, defying everything and sweeping across the invincible, was suppressed by Wayne in the next moment. "I told you to get out, so get out." Wayne was floating in midair, expressionless, looking coldly at Nowitzki, who was pressed into the ground by the giant ice palm, and said indifferently, "Hiss." In an instant, the whole place suddenly burst into gasps of cold air. Everyone stared blankly at Wayne, who was floating quietly there, with a look of incomparable horror in their eyes. The materialization of spiritual elements. This is the true materialization of spiritual elements. In the sky not far away, the seventh-order imperial spiritual masters from other countries looked horrified, looked at each other in shock, and murmured in their mouths. A layman looks at the fun, an expert looks at the door. For ordinary people, it is shocking that Mr. Nowitzki, who previously defeated the Orlando Kingdom's top master D. Lin with one move, was actually defeated by someone with one move at the next moment. For those 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual masters from other kingdoms, the strength that Wayne had displayed previously was what they had been pursuing all their lives. What is going on? Nowitzki actually lost? In the Weiss Kingdom matter, Silton and others looked at Wayne in the sky with their eyes wide open, and murmured in disbelief. Others, they were shocked, but the members of the delegation from the Kingdom of Weiss were filled with panic. Tell me, where is Pollock? Wayne's cold voice came again from the sky, making Silton and others tremble. Impossible, I am the #1 expert in the Northwest, you guy. At this moment, in the deep pit that was hit by Wayne's giant ice palm, an extremely unwilling roar suddenly came from the air. Immediately, a figure quickly flew into the sky. It was Nowitzki, who was instantly blasted into the ground by Wayne. At this moment, Nowitzki's face no longer had the overwhelming aura it had before. The robe on his body had already become extremely tattered in the previous bombardment, and his entire face was distorted and embarrassed. Amidst the roar, a bottle of medicine with a fiery red solution suddenly appeared in Nowitzki's hand. Under everyone's inexplicable gaze, Nowitzki uncorked the medicine bottle tremblingly, and then removed the bottle. He raised his head and drank the elixir. Below, Jason's eyes narrowed slightly, and he said slightly, "This is a 6th-level low-grade stimulant potion." The stimulant potion, a 6th-order low-grade stimulant, can make a 7th-order spiritual master or below explode with several. The elixir, that is twice as strong as the user's own strength, will have severe side effects after taking it. After the effect of the drug wears off, the user's strength will drop by a level in a short period of time, and it will cause extremely serious damage to the body. As the spiritual potion entered his stomach, Nowitzki's body suddenly erupted with an extremely powerful power of the fire element, and then buzz, several red spirit rings erupted from Nowitzki's body. The top of his head appeared and floated behind his head. Suddenly, the phantoms of several fire beasts continued to appear behind Nowitzki. In midair, the momentum revealed on Nowitzki's body continued to rise, hitting peaks one after another. Nowitzki's eyes turned red, and his body burned with blazing flames. A pair of huge flame wings several feet long suddenly stretched out from his back. His whole person was like a god of fire, descending to earth, full of majesty. The highest secret of the flame phoenix, flying with phoenix wings to the sky. A rumbling sound rang in the sky. In the cold words, a huge firestorm blew up around Nowitzki's body, and his whole body instantly turned into a fiery red. The flaming meteor aimed at Wayne not far away and swept over him. Phoenix wings and sky soaring, the highest secret of the low-grade star-level flame phoenix practiced by Nowitzki, is the most powerful move that can only be fully unleashed by those who have reached the 8th-level Emperor spiritual master realm. But now, Nowitzki, a senior imperial spiritual master of the 7 realms, has used a 6th-level low-grade stimulant potion to easily damage his own body, and has released this move across levels. He is bound to defeat Wayne in front of him and regain the dignity of the top master in the Northwest. For a moment, the sky and the earth changed color, and flames burned the sky. Feeling the powerful momentum released by Nowitzki, everyone's heart suddenly rose to their throats. Just when everyone was changing their colors at the power of phoenix wings released by Nowitzki, Wayne, who was quietly suspended in midair, did not change his expression, but his eyes became colder. "If you don't want to get down, well, I'll beat you until you can't move this time." Wayne snorted coldly, and an invisible ripple emanated from his body. Then, in April, the sky suddenly became extremely cold, and in everyone's shocked eyes, it suddenly started to snow like goose feathers. Wayne held his right hand in the sky again, and a giant ice palm with a radius of more than 10 feet was condensed out of thin air again, aiming at Nowitzki, who turned into a fiery red flaming meteor, and struck hard. With this blow, all other spiritual elements in the space around Wayne's body were instantly evacuated, leaving only the ice-based spiritual elements filling it. Is this an elemental barrier? Are you an 8th level Emperor spiritual master? Feeling the changes in the surrounding environment, Nowitzki showed a trace of unconcealable fear in his eyes, and his mouth trembled. The difference between the 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master and the 6th level Imperial Spiritual Master is that they can absorb and control the spiritual elements in the world. The difference between the 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master and the 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master is that the Imperial Spiritual Master can control the air. The difference between the 8th level Emperor Spiritual Master and the 7th level Emperor Spiritual Master is that the Emperor Spiritual Master can control the spiritual elements in the air, while the Emperor Spiritual Master can release an elemental barrier around the body, allowing himself to the environment around the body forms an elemental space that is most suitable for fighting. Without the support of the fire element in the air, the giant firestorm on Nowitzki suddenly shrank several times. However, he was unaware of it and just stared blankly in the direction of Wayne. Nowitzki, who had taken the stimulant potion, instantly increased his strength several times, releasing the ultimate secret of Phoenix wings that only a promoted Emperor Spiritualist could release. However, he knew in his heart that in the face of a real Emperor Spiritualist, at that time, even his current strength was not enough. In Nowitzki's shocked eyes, the giant ice palm hit him hard again. Boom! In the explosion, the flames on Nowitzki's body were instantly dispersed. The originally powerful and earth-shattering attack was extinguished and dissipated in an instant, and was once again slammed into the manor paved with bluestone floors. The huge impact caused the entire manor to shake under the blow. Huge rocks and soil were scattered in all directions, leaving huge deep pits on the ground. All the people near the manor stared blankly at Wayne in the sky, their eyes dull, and only the roar of Nowitzki when he was attacked was left in their ears. An 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master, that was actually an 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master. Previously, although Wayne could defeat him with one move, Nowitzki was defeated, but in everyone's minds, they believed that Wayne was at most a 7th level peak Imperial Spiritual Master. It wasn't that Wayne's previous performance wasn't strong enough, but that they didn't even dare to think about being an 8th level Emperor Spiritual Master. What is the concept of an 8th level Emperor Spiritual Master? He is definitely a master figure who can sweep through the entire Northwest countries with one person. Not to mention the Northwest countries, he is also a top figure in the 4 major empires on the mainland. For the people of these Northwest countries, the 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master already belongs to the myth of a country, the master among masters, while the 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master only exists and is a legend in their hearts. But today, they finally saw it, but what they couldn't understand was why such a master who could travel across the continent became the guard of a boy who was only 18 years old. This was a bit unbelievable. In an instant, everyone's eyes changed when they looked at Jason. In their hearts, Jason used to be the genius of the Northwest countries, the object of their worship, and the future elixir master of the Northwest. However, at this moment, the figure of Jason, a young man, gradually became mysterious in their eyes. Fear, everyone looked at Jason. In addition to admiration, amazement and mystery, at this moment, there was another fear. Wow! At this moment, Alice finally arrived with a large number of guards from the Kingdom of Orlando. Everyone in the entire manor was looking at Wayne in the sky and Jason on the ground. Not speaking, extremely silent. She originally thought that the scene would be like a dream. After seeing this scene, she was stunned. But when her eyes wandered to someone in the group of people in Silton, Ellie was a little surprised. A trace of anger suddenly appeared on C's face. Jason, it was him, he was the one who injured Claire and my 2 guards. Alice pointed at Watson in the crowd behind Silton with a look of extreme excitement on her face. After hearing Ellis' identification, everyone immediately focused their attention on Watson. When Jason came to the door, Watson's heart was full of anxiety, and after Wayne showed his power, his heart was even more full of fear. Every second before, he was afraid that he would be found out. He had been praying silently in his heart that Master Silton and Master Nowitzki could resolve this matter satisfactorily, but the development of the matter did not develop as he imagined. After everyone's eyes were focused on him, his body became stiff in an instant. Although he tried his best to relax, for some reason, she just couldn't do it. Especially under the gaze of Wayne in the sky, he felt extremely huge pressure, which was a kind of physical due to the body's instinct. Even he, a 6th-level low-level spiritual master, couldn't adapt to it in a short time. Since you are an accomplice, then Wayne, let's do it, Jason said in an indifferent voice. A rare grin appeared on Wayne's face, and he slowly raised his right hand. No, Master Hilton, save me quickly. His Highness Pollock asked me to do it. After seeing Wayne's actions, Watson's pupils suddenly dilated, and his face instantly became extremely pale, without a trace of blood. Shouted out to Master Silton. But after he saw the helpless look in Master Silton's eyes, he finally came to his senses, and instantly let out an extremely sad and angry roar, and was about to fly away into the distance. At this moment, Wayne's hand moved slightly, waving gently at Watson's, running back like a fan. Kakaka. In everyone's frightened eyes, some ice suddenly appeared on Watson's body while he was running rapidly. The ice spread in all directions on Watson's body. In an instant, Watson's body has completely turned into an ice sculpture, covered in ice. Crack. Then, traces of cracks appeared on the ice sculpture, and it shattered into ice cubes and debris all over the ground in an instant. Everyone present felt an inexplicable chill in their hearts. A 6th-level low-level spiritual master, a master who could be called the strongest person in a province, was frozen into countless ice cubes, and his body was gone in an instant. A trace of inexplicable sadness rose in the hearts of everyone in the kingdom of Weiss. I'll ask for the last time, where is Pollock? Jason said faintly, without any emotion in his tone. However, in the ears of everyone in the kingdom of Weiss, it was the sound of hell's urging, which made them all shivered involuntarily. William, bring me Pollock. Silton turned his head, his face was gloomy, and he spoke in a low voice. At this moment, as the #1 elixir of the kingdom of Weiss, and even the #1 elixir of the entire Northwest, he finally had to compromise under Jason's strength. After hearing Hilton's instructions, William couldn't help but look stunned. What? Didn't you hear what I said? Silton looked at the guard beside him, with a trace of suppressed anger in his tone. The guard then reacted and swept towards the back of the manor. In a few leaps, he had disappeared from everyone's sight. A moment later, the guard named William appeared in everyone's sight again, and in his hand, he was holding a frightened person. That person was none other than the 3rd prince of the kingdom of Weiss, Pollock. Pollock at this moment. His eyes no longer had the domineering and arrogant look of the past, instead, they were filled with fear and panic. Jason, the Pollock you mentioned has been brought. I wonder how our 3rd prince of the kingdom of Weiss offended you. Silton looked at Jason with a hint of suppressed anger in his tone. No matter what the final outcome of this incident was, with Wayne's powerful strength, Master Silton had to compromise in the end. The kingdom of Sri Lanka has completely lost its face. Jason's eyes narrowed, with a hint of anger on his face, and he said coldly, he was domineering and hurt my maid, Claire, on the street. Claire is still alive. Life or death is unknown, what do you think should be done? Injured your maid? Everyone present was speechless. They never thought that the cause of today's earth-shattering conflict was that the 3rd prince of the kingdom of Weiss, Pollock, injured Jason's maid on the street. One of them was a prince of the kingdom of Weiss, one is a maid, and the status gap between the two suddenly created a sense of humor in the hearts of many people present. Maybe the maid is Jason's concubine. In Stern Continent, the personal maids arranged by some families are actually the concubines of some of the family's children. If Claire is Jason's concubine, it makes sense. Indeed, Jason is only 10 years old now. 8 years old, young and passionate, he found out that someone had hurt the woman he loved. He was angry, and it was inevitable to get angry. The muscles on Pollock's face twitched, and he felt regretful in his heart. If he had known this, he would have beaten Nagram. The reason why Leia slapped her was just to show off that Jason snatched away the championship of the Spiritual Medicine Master Conference and caused the current scene to cause the kingdom to lose face. The price was really too high. Why don't you apologize to Jason quickly? Silton Mimi angry, coo, if it weren't for this Pollock, how could he have gotten to this point today? But no matter what, Pollock is the third prince of the kingdom of Weiss. No matter what he did wrong, he will always, it must be maintained. Master Silton. Pollock begged and looked at Silton in his heart, asking him, a noble prince of the kingdom of Weiss, to admit his mistake in public was really more unacceptable than killing him. Kneel down, Silton looked at him with wide eyes, and shouted angrily. A powerful momentum burst out from him in an instant, pressing towards Pollock. This Pollock is too ungrateful, and don't even look at what the situation is now. Plop. Under such tremendous pressure, Pollock could no longer bear it and fell to his knees on the bluestone ground, his eyes no longer as unscrupulous as before. Jason, I was wrong. Pollock lowered his head, which he thought was extremely noble, and the flames of humiliation burned in his eyes. As the third prince of the most powerful country in the Northwest, he had never experienced this before. Such a commission, however, he did not dare to have the slightest resentment towards Jason in his heart. Pollock was not an idiot. He knew clearly in his heart how powerful an 8th-level Imperial Spiritual Master was. Let alone him. Even if his father is here, there is nothing he can do. Jason, I wonder how your maid Claire is doing now. If I can be of any help, please feel free to ask. Silton said. Did you protect him? However, just when everyone thought this matter should end like this, Jason's even colder voice rang out. The expressions of everyone present suddenly changed. Now Sylvia of the Kingdom of Weiss, Master Dunn, had already relented, and Pollock had also admitted his mistake. But listening to Jason's tone, Silton's face showed a trace of anger, and he said coldly, Jason, no matter what Pollock says, it is I, your highness, the third prince of the Kingdom of Weiss, but he hurt my maid. Jason's always gentle eyes turned, no matter who hurts the people around me, no matter who he is, I will let him die. If I am not strong enough now, then when I am strong enough, I will let him die. On that day I will come again to take his life. Pollock trembled. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Jason in front of him. A trace of panic flashed in his eyes. Could it be that it wasn't enough do you want to take your own life? Pollock, who was angry, never thought that if it weren't for his arrogant and domineering, and even more to vent his resentment towards Jason, how could he have provoked Jason? I am the third prince of the Kingdom of Weiss. You cannot kill me. If you kill me, your father will never let you go. Extremely huge fear spread, and he cried bitterly. He made a sound and looked at Master Silton on the side with pleading eyes. Pollock was trembling all over, his face was pale, and he had lost all his masculinity. When Silton asked him to admit his mistake before, he felt that asking him to admit his mistake would be more uncomfortable than killing him. However, when death was about to come, all dignity and backbone were gone. Jason, Silton said coldly. Jason's eyes suddenly turned cold. In the sky, Wayne slowly fell down, his eyes coldly staring at the people, coldly. The chill spread in the manor, and the spiritual elements in the air rioted again. Seeing the look in Wayne's eyes, everyone knew in their hearts that as long as anyone dared to stop him, Wayne would take action instantly without any hesitation. With a long sigh, the members of the Weiss Kingdom delegation all turned their faces away, not wanting to humiliate themselves anymore. As long as Wayne is around, even if they want to stop Jason, they are powerless. You can't kill me. If you kill me, my father Wang Ian will avenge me. Master Silton, save me. Pollock wailed in pain and roared. If someone wants to avenge you, then just let him do it. I, Jason, am waiting for him. Jason slowly said in his mouth, with an extremely huge confidence. Without hesitation, his subordinates suddenly, when he slapped his palm, everyone in the Weiss Kingdom delegation couldn't bear to close their eyes. Bang! The voice of Pollock, who was yelling crazily, suddenly stopped. He stared at Jason in front of him, his eyes gradually dimming. Until his death, his eyes were wide open, showing a strong sense of disbelief. He could not believe that he, the noble prince of the Kingdom of Weiss, will be killed for hitting a maid. Seeing Pollock's unblinking eyes, the people of the Kingdom of Weiss, who were originally displeased that Pollock had brought such a, and who hated Pollock, also had a trace of inexplicable sadness in their expressions. Not even a hint of resentment. They are resentful of a genius spiritual medicine master who can let a strong 8th level imperial spiritual master act as his bodyguard, and resentful of a person who can even kill His Highness the 3rd Prince of his kingdom at his request. They are not tired of living yet. Not only the people in the Weiss Kingdom, but also the 7th Order imperial spiritual masters from other kingdoms in the sky in the distance, the ordinary people watching on the street, and even Alice. His mouth was also opened wide, his eyes showing disbelief. A prince who can follow the delegation led by Master Silton to attend the Elixir Master Conference will definitely receive considerable attention in the Kingdom of Weiss. Such a prince may even be the future of the Kingdom of Weiss in the future. The King of Chun, however, in Jason's eyes, was just like an ordinary person, killing whenever he asked. Such a shock made everyone feel unspeakable fear. The strong men from other kingdoms, no matter what happens in the future, they cannot offend Jason. People around me. After Jason's eyes swept over the faces of everyone present one by one, he saw their expressions, and a hint of satisfaction appeared in his heart. The dragon has reverse scales, which will make you angry if you touch them. Jason's reverse scales are those who follow him. As his reputation at the Elixir Master Conference is revealed, he is likely to encounter some troubles that were impossible or unnecessary before. Some people cannot trouble him, will deal with the people around him, and what happened to Claire today directly illustrates this point. However, many times, Jason could not take care of them all, so today, Jason was so angry that he killed Pollock without hesitation. No matter who is hurt, no matter what his origins are or what his identity is, he will show no mercy and seek justice for his people. Jason's eyes looked around everyone, and finally fell on. His eyes were no longer as cold as before, and he said loudly, "If you have any dissatisfaction in the Kingdom of Weiss, just come and find it. Jason, will stick with me to the end, but if you dare to cause trouble in the Kingdom of Orlando, or hurt innocent people, don't blame me for taking revenge at all costs." Alice, Rudolph and others on the side were thinking. There was a hint of huge gratitude. Jason's words, which were like an oath, were obviously for their sake and to draw a clear line between them. Indeed, Jason has nothing to fear with Wayne's protection. If the Kingdom of Weiss vents its anger on the Kingdom of Orlando or them, then they will have to huddle in the Kingdom of Master Silton of the Kingdom of Weiss. A wry smile suddenly appeared on the faces of the others, and they said, "Jason, you are joking. Since this Pollock, he is to blame for his own fate. I think your Majesty will be too. Thinking about it this way, if you are willing not to take it to heart and let it go, that would be the best thing." Although there was a hint of bitterness in his tone, it was absolutely full of truth and there was no trace of hypocrisy. As a prince, there are at least 10 people in the entire Kingdom of Weiss. Even if he is loved by His Majesty, his status in the kingdom cannot be compared with that of a genius elixir like the 8th Prince Sri Lanka. And Jason's words, regardless of his talent and background, just the 8th level Emperor Spiritual Master, is enough to make the entire Kingdom of Weiss helpless, not to mention the mentor of the Elixir Master, and Jason's own, the talent is also terrifying and astonishing. So as long as His Majesty of the Kingdom of Weiss is not out of his mind, he will never do it for a person. The prince formed a deep hatred for a person like Jason, but he would try his best to get back together with that Jason. The most ruthless emperor's family, this is also the minimum ambition of a country's leader, and it is also the sorrow of Pollock as a prince. If Pollock is just a child of an ordinary small family, although the other party will also be affected by Jason's power. He chooses to be patient despite his background, but at least this hatred will never be buried. After receiving Silton's promise, Jason nodded, turned and walked outside the manor. Wayne, on the other hand, followed closely behind him. Looking at Wayne standing proudly behind Jason, everyone was deeply shocked by Jason's rich background. When they thought about it, Wayne was naturally sent by Jason's mentor to protect him. If he could make an 8th-level Imperial Spiritual Master obediently obey the orders of a boy who was only 18 years old, then Jason's mentor himself, the strength is so shocking. Suddenly there was a hint of joy. The people on the side were suddenly stunned. They didn't understand why, and they followed Wayne's gaze. From around the corner of the mansion, a running girl suddenly appeared in front of everyone. They saw Jason and others coming back. Finally, the girl's originally anxious face showed a hint of excitement. This girl is none other than Claire, who was still unconscious before. Master Jason. Claire ran over and nervously looked at Jason in front of her before speaking out. Master, I heard that you went to find that guy? The guards around that guy are very powerful, okay? Master, are you okay? It's okay, Claire, it's really okay. After Claire woke up earlier, she heard that Jason rushed directly to someone else's mansion to avenge herself, so she was so scared that she ran out in a hurry. Now that I saw that Jason was fine, the stone in my heart was relieved. Haha. Seeing Claire's nervous expression, Jason and Wayne looked at each other and burst out laughing, their original moods gloomy. It also turned from dark to dark in an instant. Rudolph and the others behind Jason were also extremely happy at this moment, with heartfelt smiles on their faces. Is there anything else that could make them happy at this moment than Claire being fine? Young master? Seeing everyone laughing, Claire's face immediately showed that she was selling. The bidding price may not be high, because there are not many people with the ability to bid. However, at this quadrennial event, these elixir masters are all outstanding people from the Northwest countries, and their wealth is undoubtedly unquestionable. If they really like a good thing, they will never be stingy. If several powerful elixir masters like a certain treasure at the same time, the businessman who took out the treasure will laugh from ear to ear. Jason had been looking forward to this trade fair for a long time. In the past, Jason would hide in his room and practice silently. This time, he came to the square early, and like a hunter searching for prey, he patrolled the various stalls with his eyes. Not to mention, after walking around most of the square, Jason really saw a lot of good things. Jason, who now has money in the spirit card, was naturally unceremonious and bought all these things. In a short time, Yenji had spent 2,000 of the 61 million spirit coins in Jason's card. Tens of thousands, but Jason didn't feel the slightest bit distressed. Dian. Just as Jason was wandering around, something in front of a stall suddenly attracted his attention, and he walked over involuntarily. The little teacher is crying and begging for the monthly ticket. The protagonist is going to get the baby soon. Please give me the monthly ticket. Well, the title of the second update means that there will be a third update today. /spam class equals SB7 Zhongdu felt a little sad for Pollock's miserable fate. This is true for Pollock. If a good prince doesn't do it, why would he offend Jason's maid? Now that she is fine, he is killed. This is too unlucky. While these people lamented Pollock's death, they also secretly warned themselves in their hearts not to make the same mistake as Pollock. No one would pity him when he died. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed by in a hurry. Soon, the most grand exchange meeting of this spiritual medicine master conference began. This kind of exchange conference is not held like a general auction, but a free communication method is used to organize a trade fair, where elixir masters can bargain freely. To put it simply, it is like a vegetable market. Early in the morning, businessmen and elixir masters from all over the Northwest set up stalls in the large square outside the Elixir Masters Union in the royal city of Carmela, making it extremely lively. These merchants and elixirs all come from various countries in the Northwest, and the things they sell are basically some precious materials and elixirs. Many of the grand finale items in a kingdom's large-scale auctions are not uncommon here. After all, if the same rarity is auctioned in a kingdom, even the strange power will completely disappear. The perfect resolution of the matter restored calm to the residents of the delegation from the Kingdom of Orlando. However, what happened this afternoon, especially Jason's angry killing of His Highness Pollock, the third prince of the Kingdom of Weiss, for a maid, and the fact that he has been following the fact that the bodyguard Wayne beside Jason was actually an 8th-level Imperial Spiritual Master was widely spread, and it reached the ears of delegations from various countries who came to the royal city to participate in the Elixir Master Conference. Early the next morning, the leaders of the delegations from various countries who came to participate in the Magic Medicine Master Conference came to visit the residents of the delegation from the Kingdom of Orlando. Jason naturally didn't want to pay attention to such trivial matters. He had just been promoted to the 3rd-level Intermediate Spiritual Master, and he continued to practice to consolidate his cultivation. Wayne was also silently practicing to restore his strength. As for yesterday, Lin, who realized it during the battle, went into seclusion. As a result, all the reception tasks were handed over to Rudolph alone, making him very busy. Many of the people who came to visit brought valuable gifts, and when everyone was chatting with Rudolph, they kindly asked Jason's maid Claire how she was doing and whether she needed it. They needed help, and after learning from Rudolph that Claire had fully recovered, they felt that the future of a genius like Jason could not be retained by the Kingdom of Orlando. People like Sen are destined to shine with his dazzling light on the continent, rather than being left in a kingdom in the northwest of the continent like the Kingdom of Orlando. But no matter what, as long as Jason's father and Jason's family are still in the Kingdom of Orlando, it is a blessing to the kingdom. As for the guards of the Kingdom of Orlando, they didn't think so much at all. Their faces were filled with great joy along the way, and they even peeked at Jason and Wayne from time to time, their eyes full of admiration and admiration. As the most powerful country in the Northwest, the extremely powerful image of the Kingdom of Weiss has long been rooted in the hearts of everyone in the Northwest countries. However, just now, Master Jason mercilessly killed the 3rd prince of the Kingdom of Weiss, Pollock and Wayne. The adults took 2 shots of Nowitzki, the top player in the Northwest. Such a shocking scene made the blood in their bodies boil with incomparable passion. Although Jason and Wayne had taken revenge before, their hearts were full of worries. Now Claire was still lying in bed with her life and death unknown. Compared with Claire's health, they hoped that this had not happened today. The group of people had their own thoughts, and in a short time, they arrived in front of the residence of the delegation from the Kingdom of Orlando. At this moment, Wayne suddenly raised his head and let out a surprised sound, with a trace of doubt on his face. /spam class equals SB5. Kreia, don't worry. That person is the 3rd prince of the Kingdom of Weiss, Pollock. Master, I have avenged you. From now on, there will be no such person in this world. Master. Claire was startled for a moment. She was so moved that her tears flowed out, but soon, her face was filled with nervousness again. It's not good for Claire, you have caused trouble for the young master. Although she is a little naive, it does not mean that she is stupid. After coming to Carmela these days, she has already heard that the Kingdom of Weiss is the most beautiful in the entire Northwest. A strong kingdom, but the young master actually killed one of the other princes for her. If the other party came to her door, what would she do? Seeing Claire's nervous look, Jason, who was in a happy mood, couldn't help but want to laugh out loud again. Knowing what Claire was worried about, he immediately laughed and said, Kreia, don't worry, they don't dare to. I'm causing trouble for your young master. Everyone walked into the mansion amid chatter and laughter. Claire Hoshiji met Napalak at noon today. Jason showed great strength. In Claire's room, he once again felt her body carefully. However, Claire's body, just like before, the strong men who were paying close attention to this place like ordinary people who had never practiced spiritual power instantly withdrew their gaze. The strength that Jason had shown previously made them reconsider their attitude towards Jason and the Kingdom of Orlando in the future. Looking at the backs of Jason and others disappearing at the entrance of the manor, Master Silton glanced at the backs of Pollock on the ground and Nowitzki, who was rescued from the huge pit, and he couldn't help but sigh heavily in his heart. No one would have thought that what he was thinking about at this moment was neither how to go back and explain the death of Pollock to His Majesty, nor how to save the lost face of the Kingdom of Weiss, but what happened after such an incident. How to restore the relationship with Jason. I hope the maid named Claire is safe and sound. Silton could only sigh silently in his heart, and while arranging people to deal with things here, he prayed in his heart. On the way back, everyone walked in silence and kept silent. Lynn's heart was constantly comprehending what he had realized before, and Alice was still in the shock of Jason killing Pollock without hesitation. As for Master Rudolph, while he was excited, he was also a little bit excited. Worry about gains and losses. The stronger Jason shows, the more beneficial it is to the Kingdom of Orlando, but it also shows that /span class equals SB1. While on the way to beg the Orlando Kingdom delegation, Jason stopped and said loudly, Master Rudolph, Alice, let's go. Rudolph and others, who were a little frightened by Wayne's strength and Jason's previous behavior, nodded and followed Jason. Lynn, who was blasted into the ground by Nowitzki, jumped out of the giant pit and walked towards Jason. Lynn's robe was already in tatters, his hair was extremely messy, and there was a lot of blood on his body. The two guards immediately wanted to run up to help him, but they were stopped by Lynn, whose eyes were shining and his face was full of excitement. Pushed it away. These years. Lynn was trapped in the realm of the 7th level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master and has been unable to successfully advance. However, in today's battle with Nowitzki, although Lynn lost miserably, he finally learned from Nowitzki. Having gained a glimpse of the true meaning of a fire spiritual master, with this understanding, as long as he gives time, he is likely to break through to the 7th level Intermediate Emperor Spiritual Master. Lynn looked at Jason and Wayne with great excitement, his eyes full of gratitude. For a spiritual master, there is nothing more exciting than advancing to a stronger realm. After seeing that the incident was over, the crowd who had been watching from a distance immediately looked at Jason and Wayne, who were walking out of the manor with great awe, and then dispersed one after another, and the people in the entire royal city looked at them in awe. This is an amber fist-sized ball. In the middle of the ball, there is a fiery red drop of blood, which is like a drop of water. It faintly exudes an inexplicable and terrifying powerful aura, and is quietly sealed in the circle. The middle of the ball. Is this? Sealed spiritual heart? After Jason took a closer look at the ball, a look of surprise suddenly appeared on his face, and he murmured doubts. The water drop-shaped blood droplets in this round ball are clearly the spiritual heart formed after the death of a spiritual beast. Generally speaking, the spiritual heart is the product of the death of some spiritual beasts within an hour before the energy in the spirit beast's body has completely condensed into a spiritual core. The energy contained in it has the vitality of life, and there is no energy in the spiritual core to so violent. At this time, if the spiritual master who killed the spirit beast is of the same level as the spirit beast, and does not have a spirit ring of that level, he can absorb the spirit ring, but as time goes by, generally within a few hours, if it is not absorbed, the spiritual heart will condense into a solid spiritual core. Precisely because there are so many restrictions and there are huge risks when absorbing spiritual hearts, most spiritual masters do not have spiritual rings. However, some alchemists have developed many methods to overcome such problems, and sealing the spiritual heart is one of them. It was a product of alchemy from ancient times. An alchemist accidentally discovered that using a special material, holy topaz crystal, could prevent the nucleation of the spiritual heart and keep it in the state of the spiritual heart. Moreover, the spirit beast masters have also discovered that the spiritual hearts formed after the death of spirit beasts that die naturally or due to some special reasons can be absorbed by any spiritual master. Just because the production of holy topaz crystals in this world is too rare, alchemists also discovered that only the spiritual hearts of some powerful spiritual beasts can retain the function of forming spiritual rings after being sealed. More importantly, if you want to meet the probability of a powerful spiritual beast dying naturally or in a special way is really low. Therefore, there have always been very few sealed spiritual hearts in the entire continent, and the vast majority of spiritual masters do not know that there are still sealed spiritual hearts in this world. The existence of this thing called heart. A certain 9th-level Holy Spirit Master who followed Jason in his previous life absorbed a sealed spiritual heart from Chao Jing, so Jason knew it so well and recognized it at a glance. "My friend, you really know the goods." Seeing that someone recognized the ball, the person setting up the stall immediately raised his head, with a smile on his face, but when he saw who was opposite, the person setting up the stall, I was stunned for a moment. "Lord Jason?" There was a trace of surprise on the man's face, and then his expression became a little reserved. Nowadays, Jason's reputation in the royal city of Carmela is known to everyone. The title of champion of this elixir master conference has made him the goal and idol of almost all the young elixir masters from the northwest countries, and the deeds of killing His Highness Pollock, the third prince of the kingdom of Weiss, a day ago made everyone feel a little afraid of him. Oh? This book is indeed a sealed spiritual heart. Seeing the shock on the face of the stall owner, Jason just smiled, squatted down, and gently held the amber ball in his hand. As soon as Jason came into contact with the amber ball, an inexplicable feeling of wishful thinking instantly arose in Jason's mind. In Jason's perception, the spiritual heart sealed in the ball seemed to be alive. It constantly attracted Jason and gave him a very strange feeling. What surprised Jason even more was that when the sealed spiritual heart fell into his hands, his body actually had the urge to absorb it directly. This impulse came directly from the instinctive reaction deep in Jason's mind. And it's not under his control at all. Huh? What's going on? Jason frowned slightly. He had never heard that Kuan's sealed spiritual heart would feel like this. Do you know which spiritual beast this sealed spiritual heart comes from? Jason raised his head and asked aloud. Lord Jason, I don't even know this. The person setting up the stall was a rather honest, middle-aged man. He faintly exuded a powerful spiritual power fluctuation. He looked like a 5th-level sect spiritual master. However, under the in front of Jason, he seemed quite nervous and reserved. No matter who you let know that this boy, who is only 18 years old, is a genius elixir master who is not seen in a century, and has an 8th-level imperial spiritual master as a guard, they will probably be nervous and reserved. This sealed spiritual heart is something passed down from my ancestors. My ancestors were an alchemist family earlier. According to the content passed down by my ancestors, it is said that if you absorb this spiritual heart, you can have the power of immortality. The middle-aged man said to Jason explained. The power of immortality? Jason smiled and shook his head. This sealed spiritual heart is a good thing, but what the middle-aged man said is too exaggerated. However, regardless of the spiritual heart in it, it is just a good thing. The holy topaz crystal outside was enough to make Jason's heart flutter. Tell me, how much do you want to pay for this sealed spiritual heart? Jason asked. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, glanced at Jason, and said hesitantly, if Sir Jason able, just give me 2 bottles of spiritual potion, or maybe 500,000 spiritual coins? Having said this, the middle-aged man looked at Jason with some anxiety. This sealed spiritual heart was indeed passed down from his ancestors, but for him. But it was of no use at all, and he didn't know the value of this thing. Taking it out this time was just a matter of luck. If he met any fat sheep, the middle-aged man would definitely kill it without hesitation, but in front of Jason, he did not dare to be presumptuous at all. "I'll trade this bottle of holy potion with you." Seeing the middle-aged man's cautious tone of discussion, Jason couldn't help but feel a little funny. He took out a bottle of light golden holy potion and put it in the middle-aged man's heart. In front of the old man. What Jason gave the big man was a bottle of 5th grade high-grade gold-fearing potion. This gold-fearing potion was a kind of spiritual potion specially given to metal spiritual masters. After taking it, it can improve the metal spiritual master's immunity to metal spirits. The absorption and comprehension can restore all the spiritual power of a 5th-level advanced metal spiritual master in a short period of time, and to a certain extent, it can promote the advancement of the metal spiritual master. This gold-fearing potion was refined by Jason for his father Renaud. Now that the middle-aged man was also a gold spiritual master, Jason took it out. "This is the gold-fearing potion?" Seeing the elixir in front of him, the big man's face suddenly showed a trace of joy. He hurriedly put the gold-fearing potion into his arms, nodded repeatedly, and said, "Change it, I've changed it." The big man's face was full of excitement, and his eyes looking at Jason were also full of gratitude. This 5th-level high-grade gold-fearing potion was really too much for a gold-type sect spiritual master. It's so precious. When encountering a crisis of exhaustion of spiritual power, having such a bottle of fear gold potion is almost equivalent to an important life guarantee. No wonder this big man is so excited. Jason smiled and absorbed the sealed spirit into the space ring. It was only then that the instinctive impulse in Jason's body to absorb the sealed spirit gradually disappeared. In the following time, Jason continued to wander around the square. All the stall owners who saw and knew Jason, some of them who were bold, greeted Jason one after another, with full expressions in their voices. Respectfully. After browsing almost all the remaining stalls, Jason found some rare and important elixir materials in a few stalls, which made Jason feel very happy. Due to Jason's reputation, when these people sold materials to Jason, almost all of them sold at a loss, and some even sold them and gave them away, which became a strange thing in the square. Not long after Jason finished browsing all the stalls in the square, Rudolph walked out of the Elixir Masters Union not far away, came to Jason and said, "Jason, the Master Trade Fair is about to begin. It started, let's go over and join together." Jason's eyes could not help but narrowed slightly, nodded, and followed Rudolph into the Elixir Guild. He also knew that the most important transaction of this Elixir conference was about to take place. Here we go. The Master Trade Fair, as the name suggests, is a trade fair attended by the Elixir Masters among the leaders of all countries and organizations participating in this Elixir Master Conference. In addition, other people like Jason and Alice entered the Elixir Master Conference at the end. The 6 young players in the first level are also qualified to participate, but as for the others, they have not been able to participate. These Elixir Masters come from all over the Northwest countries. Almost everyone is the number 1 Elixir Master in a certain country. The treasures they have in their hands are naturally not comparable to those of the street vendors in the square outside. Passing through the corridors of the Elixirist Union, Jason came to the hall where he attended the last awards ceremony at the Elixirist Conference. At this time, the layout of the hall had been completely changed. A round sandalwood table was placed in the middle of the entire hall, and around the round sandalwood table, many tables and chairs were arranged in a round shape. Shape. Now, the entire hall was almost full of people. After Rudolph and Jason came in, everyone in the hall stood up and greeted Rudolph and Jason, especially in the greetings. Jason's time. The faces of these people were filled with warm smiles, as if Jason was an old friend they had not seen for many years. Even Master Silton and Sri Lanka are extremely enthusiastic about Jason. It's as if what happened to Pollock 2 years ago didn't happen at all. And the Elixir Masters from other countries around them are very enthusiastic about Master Silton. There was no surprise at all about Jason's enthusiastic attitude. It seemed extremely natural, as if he had known the result for a long time. It was under the leadership of Rudolph. Jason sat down on a chair very close to the round table, and Rudolph also sat next to Jason. After sitting down, Jason's eyes roamed back and forth among the people in the hall. Only then did he realize that there seemed to be some specific way of sitting. There are only 6 chairs closest to the round table. The people sitting on these chairs are all the top elixirs of the 5 great powers in the Northwest, such as Silton, Rudolph, Robert Cheen, and others. In addition, there is Jason. The remaining number 1 elixir masters from other countries are all sitting in the entire hall according to their own rank or the strength of the kingdom, and according to each camp. As for Sri Lanka and Loken, they entered the final elixir master conference. The genius elixir masters from the first level sat at the back with some restraint. Feeling Jason's gaze, Sri Lanka in the crowd nodded and smiled slightly at Jason, but there was a trace of inexplicable persistence in his eyes. It was an unafraid and extremely determined gaze, but yet not the slightest bit of resentment. Seeing this look, Jason couldn't help but feel sorry for Pollock, who was born in the royal family. At the same time, he also secretly lamented the Sri Lankan's firmness of mind. As a spiritual medicine master, if you want to achieve something, you must not be afraid of any difficulties and have the ability. The mentality of a strong person is to be in awe before anyone and anything, but not in fear. Because of what happened 2 days ago, even the elixir masters present were extremely polite to Jason. Some people's eyes even showed a hint of wanting to please. However, although the attitude of this Sri Lankan was friendly, the eyes showed that kind of firm light that would not retreat. Jason knew that with the current talent and character shown in Sri Lanka in the field of elixirs, as long as he did not encounter any insurmountable setbacks in the future, he would definitely be able to reach the level of a master of elixirs like Silton in his lifetime, and it was even very possible. Even more accomplished than Silton. After waiting for a moment and everyone had arrived, King Dongnan and Buhan stood up and said loudly, "Since everyone has arrived, let's start this master trade fair now. Rules I won't say much more. You are all guests from afar, so let me, a landlord, show off my shame first." As Roberts finished speaking, some beautiful maids holding round discs walked out of the hall, while turning the round table. While placing the things in his hands one by one on the edge of the round table. Suddenly, the originally empty round table was filled with more than a dozen items of various kinds, including rare spiritual cores, crystals, medicinal materials, elixirs, and other gadgets. There are many kinds, but the same thing is that all of these things are treasures. If they are held at large auctions outside, they will at least be the final auction items. Everyone pondered in silence for a long time, and after looking at everything one by one, finally, a master of elixirs from a small country came up, took out a piece of yellow-brown ore, and placed it next to a medicinal plant. Before coming, Jason had already figured out the rules of this trade fair, which was that if someone took a fancy to something on the round table, he should put an item next to him that he thought was worth exchanging. If the person agrees to the exchange, the transaction will be successful. If the person does not agree to the exchange, the item will be taken back. Different people can also compete for the same item. It depends on whose item can impress the exchanger more. The most distinctive feature of this master trade fair is that all items are bartered, rather than valued in spirit coins. After all, for the top elixir masters in these kingdoms, our spirit coins are just extraneous things, only cherished items. That's what they want to get. After one person took action, many people quickly took out items from their bodies and placed them next to their favorite items. Not long after, the dozen or so items on the round book were more or less filled with things. There were also 1 or 2 items that had nothing in front of them. It was obvious that no one was interested in them. After all the items of more than 10 years were laid out, Jason looked at them all for the first time. Among the items of more than 10 years, there was nothing he wanted, which made him feel a little disappointed. That's not to say that these things are not precious. Each of these more than 10 items is almost more rare than the things he bought outside before. But there are too many rare things on the entire continent. Update. With Jason's current strength, it is neither possible nor necessary to get everything. He can only buy things that will be helpful to him in the future. After seeing everyone return to their seats, Robert stepped forward and gently turned the round table. If he was satisfied with other people's exchange items, he would take them away. If he was not satisfied, he would take away his own items. Following Robert's actions, the elixir masters in the crowd who took out items for exchange showed expressions of either joy or regret. After Robert's selection, everyone took their items and started the second round of selection. For the sake of fairness, the whole process was silent, except for the fear that the exchanger would not know the goods and could explain the function and value of the items he took out. No one had any verbal communication. This is to further improve fairness and prevent some people from discussing secretly. Of course, in fact, no matter how the rules are set, there will always be unfairness. At least Jason discovered that as long as Master Silton, the #1 elixir of the 5 great powers in the Northwest, likes something, even if it is something else, no matter how interested the elixir master of a small country is in that item, he still has to hesitate for a long time before deciding whether to take action or not. When an item is favored by Master Silton and others, the elixir who takes out the item needs to carefully consider whether to agree to the exchange, even if he doesn't really like the item. The higher the status and the stronger the strength, the more advantages. In the first 2 rounds of transactions, Jason didn't see anything he needed. When the third round started, a golden, translucent object that looked like a tree root immediately attracted Jason's attention. "This is Tisway wood?" Jason's face couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. Tisway wood is an extremely rare and unique item in the entire Stern continent. It has extremely strong healing capabilities. Update. Simple attacks generally cannot cause any damage to it, and its survival time is extremely long. It is the most important ingredient in the 8th level elixir, the longevity potion. After taking it, it can extend a person's lifespan by 12 years, which is incredible. For a dying top expert or an imperial emperor, they are willing to exchange for 12 years of life at almost any price, even if they don't have an 8th level elixir emperor's chair to make a longevity potion. As long as a 4th level elixir master or above can simply boil Tisway wood and take it, it will also have the effect of prolonging life. The treasure of the elixir of longevity. Jason in his previous life had heard that Alexander the Great of the Lingdo Empire used a piece of the empire's rich territory to buy it back from a famous 8th level elixir emperor master in the mainland at a mainland auction. A bottle of immortality potion. Jason looked at the elixir master from a small kingdom in the northwest who took out the Tisway wood with doubtful eyes. He was a 5th level low-level elixir master. Jason never imagined that there would be elixirs. Good things like the medicine man's chair, Tisway wood, were brought out for exchange. However, what surprised Jason even more was yet to come. Jason was afraid that everyone would compete for the Tisway wood, so he was thinking about what he should exchange for it. Update. But he found that none of the elixir masters present were interested in the Tisway wood. When the transaction was about to end, there was still no elixir master placing an item next to the Tisway wood. Seeing that this round of trading was about to end, Jason couldn't understand and couldn't care so much. He stood up directly and came to the Tisuemu. After thinking about it in his mind, he took out a bottle of 5th level elixir and placed it on the table beside the Tisway wood. Jiechio's behavior immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the hall, and everyone looked at Jason with doubtful eyes. Jia's face was expressionless and he ignored him. He sat there quietly, feeling extremely uneasy in his heart. Soon, this round of trading was over. All the elixir masters who had placed the original items stepped forward to take the items that others wanted to exchange. Those who were not satisfied took their own items. Jason's expression was as usual, but his mind was completely focused on the elixir master of the small country. I didn't know if he agreed to this exchange. The elixir master stepped forward and looked at the elixir placed there by Jason. There was a trace of eagerness in his eyes, but his expression was full of hesitation. He hesitated for a long time, and finally did not take the bottle of elixir. Jason's heart suddenly sank slightly. Ahem, Jason Day, do you really want this thing? To Jason's surprise, the elixir master did not take the Ticeway wood back, but Chu turned to look at Jason and asked make a sound. Jason was slightly startled. Logically speaking, no one was allowed to speak in this transaction, but since the other party asked and no one objected, Jason naturally replied, exactly, and if this master shows it to me, if you are not satisfied with the elixir, we can still discuss it. The elixir master suddenly became a little excited when he heard what Jason said, but he quickly restrained his emotions and updated. He said, Master Jason, I am Hawk from the Tarot Kingdom. This item was obtained accidentally a few years ago. It is quite strange. Based on my experience, I think it should be a relatively rare material. It's just that I never know what it is used for. Since Master Jason needs it so much, let me treat it as a meeting gift to Master Jason. I just hope that if possible, Master Jason can tell me the purpose of this item, so that I can broaden my horizons. As for this bottle of spiritual potion, I have to pay Master Jason to take it back. After saying that, Hawk's eyes flicked over the 5th level spiritual potion placed there by Jason, and his eyes inadvertently revealed a hint of indifference. Abandon. Jason couldn't help but be stunned. He felt the sincere gaze of the other party, as well as the doubtful and questioning eyes of all the elixir masters in the entire hall, including Silton and others. He couldn't help but feel dumbfounded for a moment. The enemy is too cruel, backflip and spin in the ice and snow. Please give me your monthly vote.